When people are given a programming task, they often start writing code immediately. For most people, this is the worst approach you can take. You get much better results if you plan your approach and work out any logic problems before you even start to enter code or type that first key. For any problem involving logic, creating a diagram often leads to far better and faster solutions. Flowcharts are one tool that every programmer or support person should know well. These flowcharts are used to troubleshoot mechanical processes, they're used to describe manufacturing processes, and for describing complex software algorithms. So this tutorial is designed to get you introduced to flowchart, give you some practice with it, and hopefully develop a tool that you can use in your process when you're trying to troubleshoot problems and develop software solutions. So we're going to look at the basic elements of a flowchart, and we're just going to work with some of the basic symbols. And you can see all flowcharts start with some type of start and end terminator symbol, which is shown here. The process symbol is where sort of the meat of any computational work is done. If you're setting a variable equal to something, or if you're trying to increment it, add 1 to it, x equals x plus 1. Anything that you have a process. Decisions are all in diamond shapes, and they're all formed as a yes-no question. So, is sun shining? Might be the question, and you'd have a yes or no answer and go one of two directions. Now typically you would have in a simple flowchart like this, you might have an arrow going down to here, or sometimes the arrow just going into here. But if you have a complicated flowchart, you might have what's called a connector. So a round circle with a letter and a circle to where it connects to and flows. Sometimes that can make your flowchart a little easier to understand because you don't have a lot of crossing wires. The trapezoid here can be used for data, but it also can be used for input and output. So if you're inputting 3 numbers, or if you're displaying something, you can use this trapezoid. This symbol also shows something that you're printing. So if you're displaying something to a user, you might want to use this sort of print. It's designed to sort of show a torn page. But you could also use the I/O for displaying something to a user. So what does an example of a very simple flowchart? Well, here's sort of a troubleshooting, very simple troubleshooting flowchart. Sometimes you see these in the back of service manuals. Lamp doesn't work. So first question, is it plugged in, yes or no? So no, obviously plug it in. Yes, check to see if the bulb is burnt out. So you'd either replace the bulb or maybe buy a new lamp. So that's the flow through a flowchart. I'm going to work on an example here to show you how would we find the larger of two numbers if we were going to design our own flowchart. So obviously we first start, and we need to get to two numbers, so let's input two numbers x and y. So input x and y. Now you can draw your flowchart this way. There are many computer programs out there that can have standard symbols. They're all the same size, makes it a little neater. Things like Visio, OmniGraffle if you're a Mac user. Now we're going to do a simple test. It can sometimes called a conditional test. Is x greater than y? With a question mark. We'll draw that inside or diamond. And the reason that you use these standard symbols is so that everyone quickly recognizes that this is decision. So you need to use the standard symbols. You can quickly read someone else's flowchart. And that's going to have a yes or a no answer. And it doesn't really matter where the yes and no come out. You've got 3 choices here. You try to do it so the flowchart looks nice and neat. Well, if x is greater than y, then we're going to indicate to the user that X is larger. So we're just going to print this on the display. Now, because we're pretty well printing something, you could, if you wanted to, use the other type of symbol. And since we're all done, we just need to end our program. So the idea here is that you have something that diagrams your logic. It's very simple. It's using standard symbols, and it conveys, and you can look through your logic and make sure you don't have any errors before you actually start to code your software process. So to give you a bit of practice, there's a simple little exercise here. Let's suppose we're going to input three numbers, A, B, and C. So write a flowchart that finds the largest number and displays it to the user. So if we had A, B, or C, it might display A, might display B, might display C, depending on which one were larger. Use only simple conditional tests. We'll talk about compound tests later that have yes or no answers. Try to lay out the flowchart so you're not crossing any lines, and it's as simple as possible.